Before you feed your cat another bowl of wet and dry food together, watch this first. According to feline nutrition experts, the problem isn't the food, it's how it's being fed. One simple mistake can quietly cancel out the benefits of both. Stay until the end, because there's a good chance you're making it too. Number 1. The mistake making your cat sick. Here it is. The thing most combination feeding videos never actually say. Mixing wet and dry food together in one bowl and leaving it out is one of the worst things you can do. It looks efficient, it feels convenient, it's actually the worst outcome for both foods. Dry kibble can sit out for hours with almost no change. Wet food cannot. The moment wet food reaches room temperature, bacteria start multiplying. In a warm home, that window closes in as little as 1 to 2 hours. When you stir wet food into kibble, you pull the entire bowl into that danger zone. The dry food goes soft and stale. The wet food spoils. A cat coming back 2 hours later may be eating something already unsafe. Even if it looks and smells perfectly fine, you would never know. Serve wet food as its own portion at mealtimes. Never leave it out longer than 2 hours. Keep dry food separate. Cold wet food is often rejected because cats want food near body temperature. Warm water fixes this. Number 2. The dehydration secret. Here's something your vet probably never told you. Your cat is living in a state of mild dehydration right now, even if they have a full water bowl. That's not neglect. That's biology. Cats evolved in deserts. Their ancestors never drank from a pond. Every drop of water they needed came from prey. Fresh, warm, full of moisture. That instinct is still wired into your cat today, which is why, no matter how many times you fill that bowl, they barely touch it. Dry kibble has about 10% moisture. Wild prey, around 70 to 75%. That gap is what your cat's kidneys pay for every single day. Add real wet food, and something shifts. Kidneys filter more easily. Urine gets diluted. The risk of crystals, painful blockages that send thousands of cats to emergency vets every year, starts to fall. But here's where most owners get it wrong. They add a spoonful of wet food on top of a full kibble bowl and think that counts. It doesn't. A spoonful is almost meaningless. Number 3. The invisible weight trap. When you feed one food, portion control is easy. You measure once, you're done. The moment you add a second food, something quietly breaks. Most owners stop measuring. They start eyeballing, and the calories stack without anyone noticing. A full portion of kibble plus a full can of wet food is almost always more than your cat needs in a day. And because cats are obligate carnivores, meaning their bodies have almost no efficient use for heavy carbohydrates, those extra calories don't just pass through, they get stored as fat. This is one of the most underdiagnosed causes of weight gain in cats. It's not that your cat is greedy, it's that 2 foods quietly became 2 full meals instead of 1 balanced one. The fix is almost too simple. You don't feed a full portion of each. You split your cat's daily calories between the 2. Wet and dry together should equal 1 day's food, not 2 separate meals stacked on top of each other. Most owners never do this math. The ones who do, their cats stay lean for years. Number 4. Why your cat is never satisfied. Does your cat scream the second you walk toward the kitchen? Inhale their food like someone is about to take it? Wake you up at 4 in the morning demanding more? Most owners call that personality. A dramatic cat. A needy cat. It's usually not personality at all. It's the food. Dry kibble digests fast. Really fast. The stomach empties within hours, and the body sends out hunger signals again, even if your cat technically ate enough. So they pace. They beg. They never quite settle. This is where wet food genuinely earns its place in the bowl. The high protein content triggers a stronger fullness response. The moisture adds physical volume, gently filling the stomach enough to switch on the signals that say done. Studies on high-protein feeding in cats link it to reduced food-seeking behavior and less anxiety between meals. A cat eating the right wet and dry balance often eats, pauses, and walks away calm, but that only happens when feeding is structured into real scheduled meals. Number 5. The bowl that sabotages everything. Most owners think the bowl doesn't matter. They're wrong. And this one overlooked detail is quietly working against your cat every single feeding. Cats have something called whisker fatigue. Their whiskers are incredibly sensitive sensory tools, and when they brush against the sides of a deep, narrow bowl repeatedly during a meal, it causes real stress and discomfort. So what happens? Your cat stops eating before they're full. They paw food onto the floor. They walk away mid-meal and beg again an hour later. You assume they're being picky. You try different foods. You spend more money. The bowl was the problem the entire time. For combination feeding to actually work, your cat needs a wide, shallow bowl or a flat plate, especially for the wet food portion. Wide enough that their whiskers never touch the sides. This one change alone can completely shift how your cat eats. Calmer, fuller, more satisfied after every meal. The food didn't need to change. The bowl did. And most owners will never make this connection without someone pointing it out. Number 6. The schedule that changes everything. Here's something that will completely change how you think about your cat's daily routine. Most owners fill the bowl whenever it gets low. Morning, evening, whenever they remember. They call it free feeding and think it's generous. What it's actually doing is keeping your cat in a permanent state of low-level anxiety around food. When food is always available, the brain never gets the signal that a real, satisfying meal happened. The body stays on constant alert, always grazing, never truly full, never truly done. Structured mealtimes fix this completely. 2 or 3 meals at the same time every single day. Your cat's body learns the rhythm. Digestive enzymes prepare in advance. The stomach empties properly between meals. And when that bowl goes down, your cat eats with focus, reaches real fullness, and walks away. Calm. Cats fed on a proper schedule consistently show less anxiety, less food aggression, and better digestion overall. Structure isn't restrictive for a cat. A predictable meal is actually one of the most calming things you can give them. Number 7. What your cat's gut is telling you. There's a conversation happening between your cat's gut and their brain that most owners don't even know exists. And combination feeding done wrong is interrupting it every single day. When a cat eats the right balance of protein, fat, and moisture, their gut microbiome stays healthy. Beneficial bacteria thrive. Digestion runs smoothly. The immune system stays strong because roughly 70% of your cat's immune function lives directly in their gut. But when the balance tips too far toward dry kibble, the high carbohydrate load starts feeding the wrong bacteria. Inflammation builds quietly, and you start seeing it on the outside. Loose stools, excess shedding, a dull coat, recurring ear issues, unexplained lethargy. Most owners treat each of these as a separate problem. A different shampoo, a different ear drop, another vet visit for the stomach. The root cause sitting in the food bowl goes completely untouched. Shift toward more wet food with higher protein and moisture, and many of these symptoms quietly begin to resolve on their own. Your cat's gut has been trying to tell you something for a long time. Number 8. Age changes the entire equation. Your cat's age changes everything about how combination feeding should work. And most owners use the exact same approach from kittenhood all the way into old age without ever adjusting once. Kittens need more calories per pound of body weight than almost any other life stage. Their wet food portion should be higher, their meals more frequent. Adult cats between 1 and 7 need a balanced ratio with wet food doing the heavy lifting. But senior cats, over 7, have needs that most feeding guides completely ignore. Senior cats lose muscle mass faster, their kidneys become less efficient. Their ability to process protein decreases even as their need for high-quality protein increases. For seniors, the wet food portion should be significantly higher than at any earlier stage. Lower phosphorus matters enormously for kidney protection. And dry food should become a smaller and smaller part of the bowl as your cat gets older. If your senior cat is still eating a primarily dry diet right now, their kidneys are working harder than they should be every single day. Number 9. The texture trap. Here's a question most owners never think to ask. Does your cat actually enjoy the combination you're giving them? Not just tolerate it, not just eat out of hunger, but genuinely respond well? Cats can develop texture aversion. and it makes switching food later in life almost impossible. A cat raised exclusively on dry kibble often refuses wet food as an adult, not because they're being difficult, but because the texture feels genuinely wrong. This is called texture imprinting, and it happens in the first year of life. If your cat turns their nose up at wet food right now, this is almost certainly why. The solution is patience and a very gradual transition. Start with the tiniest amount of wet food, even half a teaspoon, mixed into the dry. Increase it slightly every 3 to 4 days. Some cats take 4 to 6 weeks to fully accept the change. But once they do, the health benefits begin immediately. Every day you delay is another day the kidneys run without the moisture they were built for. Number 10. The label secret nobody checks. Most people who combination feed never read the ingredient labels on both products at the same time. But when you actually do it, side by side, something becomes clear very fast. Many popular dry kibbles list corn, wheat, or rice as the first ingredient, not meat, grain. Meanwhile, the wet food sitting right next to it leads with chicken or salmon. What this means in practice is that you're combining a high-protein wet food with a high-carbohydrate dry food and calling it balance. It's not balance. It's two completely different nutritional approaches fighting each other in the same bowl. For combination feeding to actually work, both foods need to be high in animal protein and low in carbohydrates. The dry food should lead with a named meat source, not a meat meal, not a grain, actual meat. When both foods share the same nutritional foundation, they work together. Your cat gets consistent protein across every meal. Their body processes both efficiently, and the health benefits of combination feeding finally show up the way they're supposed to. Number 11. The temperature mistake. Most owners who combination feed have never thought about one thing, the temperature of what they're actually serving. And this single overlooked detail is quietly causing rejection, incomplete meals, and cats begging again within the hour. Cats are hardwired to prefer food at body temperature, around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the exact warmth of freshly caught prey. When you serve wet food straight from the refrigerator, it sits at around 40 degrees. That gap isn't just a preference, it's a biological mismatch. Many cats sniff the cold food, back away, and look at you like you've personally failed them. You think they're being picky. They're following survival instincts millions of years old. The fix takes 30 seconds. A small splash of warm water stirred into the cold, wet food raises the temperature, unlocks the aroma, and brings it back to what the body expects. The difference in how eagerly they eat is often immediate. Temperature isn't a preference for your cat. It's biology. And every cold bowl you've ever served may have been quietly undermining the routine you worked to build. Number 12. The addiction they engineered. Here's something about dry food that most owners have never been told, and that most pet food companies would prefer you never find out. Dry kibble, once it goes through the extrusion and cooking process, is largely unpalatable to cats on its own. The actual kibble is bland. So manufacturers spray the outside of every piece with something called digest, rendered animal fats and concentrated flavor compounds, to make it smell and taste appealing. That coating is the reason your cat goes crazy for kibble. It's not the nutrition, it's the spray. Now here's why this matters for combination feeding. When your cat consistently prefers dry food over wet, it's almost never because kibble is nutritionally better for them. It's because the flavor coating is artificially more intense than the natural smell of real whole food. Your cat isn't making a healthy choice. They're responding to something engineered to be irresistible. Understanding this completely changes how you think about your cat's preferences, and why gradually shifting the balance toward real wet food matters more than most owners ever realize. Number 13. The signal after every meal. Your cat is sending you a signal after every single meal, and almost no owner notices it. Watch your cat for 10 minutes after they finish eating. A cat who's genuinely satisfied will groom themselves, find a comfortable spot, and settle into rest. Body relaxed, eyes soft, done. A cat who isn't truly satisfied will pace the kitchen, hover near the bowl, meow at you, or come back to sniff the empty dish within minutes. Most owners assume that's greediness. It's not. It's a biological signal that the meal didn't trigger the fullness response the body was looking for. This is one of the clearest signs that the wet portion of your combination feeding isn't doing its job. Either the amount is too small or the protein quality too low. A truly satisfied cat goes quiet after eating. That post-meal calm isn't a personality trait. It's proof the food worked. If you've never seen your cat do that, it's worth asking honestly whether what's in the bowl is actually meeting what their body genuinely needs every day. Number 14. The water bowl location. Secret. There's a detail about water that almost every combination feeding guide completely misses. And it's costing your cat more than most owners realize. Cats don't just avoid still bowls out of instinct. They also avoid water that's placed too close to their food. In the wild, a water source near a food source was almost always contaminated by the remains of prey. Cats evolved to distrust it. So if your cat's water bowl is sitting right next to their food bowl, they're biologically primed to avoid it. And many do, without their owners ever making the connection. Move the water bowl to a completely different room, or at minimum to the opposite end of the kitchen. Many cats who've been ignoring their water bowl for months start drinking from it regularly within days of this one change. Add a second water station in another room entirely, and intake often increases even further. When you're relying on combination feeding to carry your cat's hydration, this behavioral shift can be the difference between barely adequate moisture levels and genuinely optimal kidney support every single day. Number 15. Why they refuse food. They loved last week. There's a reason your cat sometimes refuses food they loved just last week, and it's not drama, and it's not mood. Combination feeding done wrong can actually train your cat's palate against their own health over time. When cats eat the same food in the same ratio every single day, the brain builds what researchers call a sensory-specific satiety response. The food becomes neurologically boring. The reward signal for that specific flavor gets dialed down. Cats start eating less than they need at each meal and holding out, hoping something different is coming. Most owners respond by switching foods entirely, which resets the cycle and gradually creates a cat who's harder and harder to feed consistently. The real solution is rotating protein sources within your wet food selection while keeping the nutritional profile the same. Chicken one week, salmon the next, turkey after that. Same moisture percentage, same protein level, different flavor. This keeps the brain engaged, prevents sensory fatigue, and ensures your cat actually finishes a complete meal instead of eating halfway and walking away. Number 16. The urinary crisis connection. If your cat has ever been diagnosed with urinary crystals, a UTI, or a blockage, your vet almost certainly told you to increase water intake. What they may not have explained is exactly how the right combination feeding routine prevents these conditions from ever coming back. Urinary crystals form when urine becomes too concentrated. Concentrated urine happens when the body is chronically underhydrated, and chronic underhydration in cats almost always traces back to a diet too heavy in dry food. When wet food makes up the majority of your cat's daily calories, the urine naturally stays diluted. The kidneys flush waste more efficiently. The bladder environment becomes genuinely hostile to crystal formation. Cats who shift to a wet food-dominant combination diet after a urinary episode show significantly lower recurrence rates than cats who return to primarily dry food. If your cat has ever had a urinary emergency, the bowl you fill every day is either quietly protecting them from a repeat or quietly setting the stage for the next one. That's not a small detail. That's one of the most important feeding decisions you make. Combination feeding isn't the mistake. Done wrong, it quietly works against your cat. Done right, it's one of the best things you can do for them. So, be honest with yourself for a second. Which mistake have you been making? Mixing wet and dry in the same bowl? Free feeding all day instead of structured meals? Never actually measuring the calories? Comment the number below, 1, 2, or 3, and tell me which one hit closest to home. You'll be surprised how many other owners are doing the exact same thing without realizing it.